Joining me now is our political reporter, Caroline Cummings. Caroline, a lot is coming in this morning ahead of that press conference at 11. What are you hearing?
Hi there, Maria. Spidey's senses start tingling when the governor announces yesterday that he's going to have a impromptu news conference with no topic at hand, which is what his team announced yesterday, just to quote, discuss the news of the day. In my 5 years covering him, I can't think of one single time he's ever done something like that. So obviously huge news, and it is really the culmination of what he talked about in his statement. There was so much intense scrutiny over fraud. It was just something that was inescapable to him. And clearly he made the assessment that it was too much to overcome. Of course, we have been reporting on fraud plaguing our state over the last several years, starting with Feeding Our Future. Those indictments came in 2022. But even amid his bid for to be vice president, right? He was the 2024 vice presidential nominee. He didn't face the national scrutiny that he is today. And the fraud has certainly only worsened. You had the lead prosecutor say that he thinks that it could be as much as $9 billion. That's what he said a few weeks ago. So it was becoming something that was taking all of the oxygen in the room, and ultimately the governor in his statement said he made a decision to walk away. As for what comes next or what I'm hearing, I'm not hearing a lot of surprise among Democrats who thought that it might be inevitable. But there was some surprise when he did decide to run for a third term. Just in that Minnesota has never elected a governor to a third consecutive 4-year term. But nobody could have predicted the last 2 weeks of intense national scrutiny, the administration responding fiercely. By that, I mean the Trump administration, in taking some actions against the state. And that led us to where we are today, where he is deciding to drop out of this race for a third term. Now, just to put a little bit in perspective, though, right, I mentioned the vice presidential bid that he had just 18 months ago or so, right? He was launched from relative obscurity, being the governor of a Midwestern state with no real national profile, to somebody with an enormous platform, raising a ton of money, and very well known. And there was a time that Democrats nationally thought, could he be a 2028 contender? And to go from that moment not too long ago to now where we are, where he is dropping out of this race, unclear if he will ever seek political office again, is a really quite stunning departure, or I should say, change of events since that bid in 2024 to be a vice president.
It is quite a stark contrast that you mentioned. And now looking ahead, you're covering today, you're specifically digging into what comes next. Who else could run in the DFL spot? What are you hearing there?
Right. Well, I was told this morning by a source close to Senator Amy Klobuchar that she has been encouraged to run, though she hasn't made a final decision. I haven't heard from other Democrats who might want to seek the office or have sought the office in the past. For example, Senate Majority Leader Aaron Murphy won the DFL endorsement for governor in 2018, the year that Governor Walz ultimately prevailed in the primary and then went on to win the general election. And my sense is that you might not hear from some other Democrats through people close to them or them making, overt statements themselves until Senator Klobuchar herself makes that decision. Senator Klobuchar is a very well-liked and popular Democrat in this state. She has consistently won by wider margins than other people on the ticket when she's been on the ballot. Democrats have said that when she is on the ballot, that benefits them, down ballot candidates. So I would say it seems at this point the ball is in her court in terms of who jumps into this race. Of course, you're coming up on the nominating convention process, right, for both parties, starting with the precinct caucuses in early February. So the timing of this announcement came at a good time because that allows candidates to jump in, and fight for ultimately what will be the DFL endorsement. Republicans are doing the same on their side. But more broadly, in terms of how this impacts the general election race, if you want to call it that, of course, we don't yet have a Republican nominee, because they're still fighting for their perspective. You have, but sorry, you've got a dog here. Um, You've got a, you've got a, Walz was the person in this race. They were framing their whole campaign on Governor Walz. So my question is, what comes next for them as they try to make the case to voters that Republicans should be back in statewide office for the first time in 20 years?
It's a lot to look ahead to. We're going to be hearing way more coming up in less than an hour from the governor himself. Caroline, anything else you wanted to add before that press conference?
No, really, just that this is a remarkable turn of events. Like I said, from where he stood on the national stage in late 2024, and I'll be curious to hear more from the governor about that decision and really, the decision to run for the third term in the first place. Was his heart always there from the start? Of course, he made his announcement. He delayed his announcement for a while. He said that he would announce that he was running in late 2020, or excuse me, after the legislative session. But then, of course, we are hit with the tragedy of the assassination of Melissa and Mark Hortman and the shooting attacks and attempted assassination of Senator John Hoffman and his wife Yvette. And that I know touched him very deeply. And he ultimately didn't make that decision until early fall. So we'll be curious to see what he has to say about kind of what led to this moment of reflection, and if it really even preceded this kind of torrent of national scrutiny that he's faced in the last 2 or 3 weeks or so.
Yes, I mean, we know, and without a doubt, it has had an immense impact, this national scrutiny, but it'd be very interesting to hear him talk more about it today. Caroline, thank you so much. Appreciate your time.